Big feelings. I think if you've watched more than one video of mine ever, you might realize that I have pretty big feelings. I was thinking recently, like, man, like, there are some people who get, diagnosed with certain mental health conditions, I guess I'd call them, and sometimes as a part of that, they take medication that is prescribed to them, and it helps balance out some chemicals so that they don't have as big of feelings, because big feelings in areas like depression and stuff can be really dangerous for suicidal ideation and things like that. But it also might mean, like, for some people who are maybe bipolar and have manic episodes and stuff, that they don't have big highs either, but they don't have big lows, which is good, but it brings them somewhere to this middle space. And I was just thinking, like, I have not really been diagnosed with anything specific other... I don't know, well, even then, you could argue... I mean, I saw a counselor a couple of years ago because of me thinking of, like, this label of anxiety and being like, oh, I think that really applies to me. I never saw it that way until somebody brought it up. And then they were like, yeah, you have just general anxiety, for sure. And then just all the pieces kind of fell into place a little before that, during that, and after that. And I've mentioned before in a conversation that I think having that label actually really helped me, gave me kind of like a starting point to do research under that label and see what applies to me and what doesn't, and how I can work on myself in that regard, especially because it's like this key part of me that has been there, like, since I don't know when, but I definitely can see the symptoms and stuff of it in my teen years for sure, and also recognize that I was doing things then without knowing it to, like, combat some of those symptoms from getting too extreme. But I felt some, like, really, really low lows in high school. And, well, I mean, like, grade 7, 8, 9 were pretty... Well, no, for me, high school was grade 7 to 12. That was my high school experience. So pretty much all throughout was pretty rough. And I got some pretty bad lows. But like I said, I was doing things, not on purpose, that were just extremely helpful for anxiety that I wish I had the time to do now, to kind of assist with that. Although I believe I'm generally a happier person now than I was then. But anyway, getting away from things. I was just thinking to myself the other day, like, would I trade my big feelings for just a more balanced feelings? Or more even keel, I guess? Because I feel like my feelings are so big that they balance themselves. Like, they balance in the aspect of, like, we're all the way down here, all the way up here, and therefore the average is still in the middle, whereas someone might be, like, here and here, and their average is still in the middle, and mine might be here and here, and yet my average is still in the middle, but it's different, right? And I was just thinking about that, like, would I do that? I don't really know. That's what I'm talking about. I guess kind of exploring that idea. Because I don't think I have reason to be at this point. Like, I mean, medicated, I don't feel like I'm a danger to myself or others. I feel pretty in control of my big feelings when I have them. I just really don't like them, and this is something I've said many times throughout the past couple of years while vlogging. I don't do well with sad. Sitting in sadness is really, really hard for me. It's a big struggle, and for a long time it's not something that I had to deal with, because my big sads in high school led me to converting my pain into anger rather than sadness, and that was a path I took for many, many years that has its own type of destruction, and I've been trying to scale that back, and as I'm scaling back pain manifesting itself through anger, I'm finding that I become more sad. So, like, sadness is less destructive to those around me, but it feels like it's more... That's the thing. I guess sadness is probably what I was supposed to feel, right? And it's not like some chemical imbalance that made me feel anger instead of sadness or whatever, but I mean, some people express, and I mean, I still can express my pain and hurt through anger, whether it be just like a short phrase or something that I say in anger, or getting angry at someone because they hurt me or whatever else. That's still like a reaction that happens to like with me. Not every time, but it's still something that I'm working on. But I've definitely realized that, again, like there's anger and there's sadness over here and pain, and like those aren't the only things that cause anger or sadness, I don't think. But like, yeah, as I'm scaling back, reacting with anger, I don't feel as angry either. And there's like a chicken or the egg thing with that too. Like sometimes you can change your actions by, you change your feelings, or sometimes you change your actions first, and that changes your feelings about it. If you can't change your feelings first to lessen your actions, or to change your actions. Anyway, it's like when someone says like, oh, maybe if you just like smile, you'll actually feel happier, or if you just like start laughing, even though you don't feel like laughing, your body has like a response to that, right? Like there's a Pavlovian response of like, oh, when you're doing this action of laughing, that means you're happy, and there's synapses that fire and chemicals that flow and whatever else, right? Anyway, so I've just been thinking like, if I had a choice and I could have just a more neurotypical experience, or I don't know, just not feeling as, I hate talking about like normal and abnormal and neurotypical and not when it comes to some things, because I'm like, I don't think like, is there an average? Like in my head there is. In my head I feel like there's people that struggle way more with big feelings than I do. And I feel like I'm not in a place where I need to be medicated for that, but I definitely struggle with like big feelings, like big sad, right? But I also get highs of like big happy. And some people, I guess, don't get to see that as much, but I also don't feel like I'm big sad as much either. It's just, I don't know. It's, I definitely, I don't know. When I wrote down my note to talk about this, like it was just, a lot of other things came with it, and I'm trying to like stick to this vein because the other things are too separate for me to really get into without completely going off the rails and having like two conversations simultaneously. But yeah, my natural instinct, was to ask myself that question came up, and I was like, I wonder, and then I kind of had an answer right away, but I wanted to explore it a bit, and I feel like, because, man, okay, let me backtrack to the feeling big sad. Big sad is not a fun place for me. I don't feel like it is an unsafe place for me, but there's times where I get really, really low, and it's like, like, I feel doom and despair, and I don't know what to do with those feelings, so there's nothing you can do with those feelings except sit in them, and then that feels like absolute hell, and it's just like, oh, just time, that's all that'll get rid of it, is just time, and that just being told that there's nothing you can do doesn't help. Like, time will heal, and it's like, no, like, that's not, there needs to be something you can do, and that's why anger was such a thing that, like, oh, I could use anger as an action. It was like an active thing, and it could like take some of my anxiety or stress or sadness or pain. It would take some pain away because I feel like I'm doing something. It's an active thing, whereas sadness is sitting as a passive thing. And like I said, I completely understand how expressing anger or having my pain manifest through anger it will add more problems because it's destructive to relationships for sure, and to myself because it's destructive to relationships. But that's what I've been trying to figure out, how to balance that. Anyway, again, with balance, I felt like my big feelings, I've never felt like, oh, I've got just this big feeling up here and nothing down here. Like, if I'm angry, I'm like pretty much like I can get big angry or big sad or like really happy, and like my highs and lows can be on this extreme end of things. And I like feeling. So I don't know, there's people that I've talked to before that either are going on medication or are on medication for regulating feelings a bit, and they talk about how they miss their highs. Obviously they don't miss their lows, and they basically, some of them have come to terms with, this is just the way it needs to be. I need to be medicated to stay balanced. I do miss those highs though, because I feel, because they recognize, in this scenario, I used to feel this way, and now I just feel like, oh, that's cool. Rather than being like, wow, that's amazing, like, oh, I'm so happy, that's great, like, it's fantastic news, or whatever. And I like feeling that. I don't like feeling my lows, but I just like feeling in general. Which leads to expressing things, which is a whole other conversation. But I think, as of right now, I don't feel like I am in a position where, like I said, I'm at a danger to others or myself, physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. I definitely don't have a good time when I'm feeling low. It's not fun, and sometimes I don't know how to cope with that, because I feel like that thing, there's sometimes where it's like, well, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to feel it, and that's it. And I hate that. I want to do an active thing to help mitigate those feelings I don't like. But that's also the thing, is like coming to terms with, yeah, this is life, and you feel things that you're not gonna like, and like, I guess accepting that is part of just like, that is coping, is like accepting the fact that there's nothing you can do actively to make things better. There's plenty of things, wow, I spit everywhere. There's plenty of things I know to avoid so I don't make things worse. But again, that's like a passive action. It's not like I could go out of my way to do things that will make my situation much worse. Oh, I don't do those things, that feels good. But that's also just like I'm not doing something is like just sitting there. It means not doing something. It's not doing something, you know? I hope you can understand that difference, because it just feels incredibly different to be like actively working on something versus passively not doing something. It doesn't feel like, I don't know, but that's the thing. And that's one of those things that's really, it's a struggle for me when it's just like, just don't do that and it'll be better. Because I mean, I have to replace bad actions with good actions, not non-actions. So I mean, like, a scenario might be if I'm arguing with a partner and I start to raise my voice in this argument, that would be a bad action. And the good action is what? The good action is like a non-action. It's like, just don't raise your voice. Okay, I won't raise my voice. But like, I'm in this moment where I need to do, like this scenario has happened however many times that like, I already have this Pavlovian response to do this thing, so I can slowly work on that and scale that back with like reminders and help and support, patience, love, assistance, all those things. And I can scale that back to this place of non-action, but like, it's hard for me, and I'm sure others as well, to like, if you go from here to here, from bad action to good action, it's a lot easier to do and feels better once you make this a habit and understand its value. But like, non-action is better than this action, but it's non-action. It's just like, just don't do it. And it's like, my response is to do something about this so that it feels like things are moving forward and progressing. Because limbo is one of my big, I hate using the word trigger, one of my big triggers for anxiety. Sitting in limbo, not knowing what's happening, not doing something. Like, if I feel bored, that's really, really bad for me, and I rarely ever feel bored because I have so many things I want to accomplish and do. But if I'm in a state of big sad, sometimes, like, it's very rare, but I can feel pretty incapacitated, get lethargic, not want to do anything. That's bad. That's a lot of non-action for me. So, anyway, the conclusion is, I really feel like at this point, I would rather have my big feelings than have like less big feelings. Like, I don't want to sacrifice my big happy just so I don't feel my big sad. Put it that way. I feel like I can cope with the big sad, even though I've felt so much more of it this past like year and a bit than I have maybe ever, or just in a really long time, or it's just a different kind of big sad than I've had to deal with before. That's for sure. Yeah. But I guess maybe I'm learning to cope with that. I don't know. Obviously going off the rails. But that's my conclusions where I come to. That's just a personal thing for me that I want to explore. And this isn't in any way like if you don't make the same decision, you're trash. Like obviously that's not what that's about. Everyone needs different things. Anyway, I guess that's where I leave off. I guess that's just for me. I would rather right now feel my big happy and my big sad. I mean, it's a package deal, right? That's it for me. We'll see you at another time.